thank iLive Radio for keeping the funk alive all over the world, worldwide. Hey, what's going on, man? It's your boy Tricks, PK Gaetin, human jump off, man. You locked into iLive Radio. They changed the way I listen to radio, man. Your mobile phone, where the internet's best choice.
Robinson Vinyl is here every Friday night at 8 p.m. on iLikeRadio.com. Formerly at Toronto's FM radio airwaves, DJs G King and Rachel Stoddard in the house. Once again, to continue their tradition, promoting great house music to the world. You will hear exclusive releases and sometimes travel back in time via some of the best disco, soul, funk, and house. So keep it locked and enjoy the ride. DJs G King and Rachel Stoddard have provided their listeners since 1996. Robinson Vinyl, be in the base.
Join me, Patrick O'Mores, for the Patrick O'Mores Show, right here on iLive Radio, Sunday afternoons from 2 to 3 p.m.
Hey, what about me?
Hey, hi.
Hi.
Who let you in the studio?
You're trying to record without me?
Okay, let me try this one more time since you're here. Join me, Patrick O'Mores, for the Patrick O'Mores Show.
See you next Sunday, 2 to 3 p.m.
This is John Browski. If I'm not snapping the next cashing checks wearing the large specs, I'm tuning to iLive Radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Back again. What's going on, everybody? Coach PK, Coach G, happy Saturday, people. Beautiful Saturday it is here in Toronto. Yes, how are you, sir? I'm great. How you doing? Good to have you back on the show, as always. What was for breakfast this morning? Ooh, we had some steak last night. Yeah. So what I always do is I'll always cook an extra piece. So we keep that on the side, grass-fed steak. So cut that steak up. We got our we get a delivery with organic produce every week, and it actually ended up coming yesterday. Right. So we got some fresh spinach. So wash the dirt out of that, because when you get that fresh, you know it's fresh because it's full of dirt. Yeah, like you almost have to scrub the dirt off of it. So cook that up in the pan. Cook a couple organic fried eggs on top. Good. Throw in some nuts. You know, a little bit of Charles Poliquin style. Even blood sugar levels, even energy levels. That's a beautiful thing. That was great. What about you? Did you have breakfast? I did have breakfast. I did. I went to the Whole Foods market early this morning, and I had some bacon. I had some eggs as well. I added some French toast to the mix, some organic maple syrup, and then I headed over to Goodness Me for the $1 organic coffee. Right. And here we are. You know that the coffee must be good there. If you're at a spot, and I leave, that has good coffee. It has great organic coffee, and you literally leave to drive 10 minutes, 15 minutes up the road to get another coffee. That's exactly right. Yeah. I think it's the best coffee in the Toronto area. Yeah, you're definitely a creature of that. We're not getting any kickbacks for that. There's no royalties, unfortunately. So, some current affairs in the world of sports. Yes. Big thing happened yesterday. The IAAF, which is the governing body for track and field, has banned the Russian track and field team from the Rio Olympics, which are going down in August of this year. Shocking development. I didn't think that they would actually step up and ban the Russians, but it has happened, and interested to hear your thoughts. So the entire team cannot compete. Okay, yeah, so what do you think? This is news to me, so you're throwing a curveball at me, which is awesome. I haven't been on the line. I haven't been on the line, the internet, you know, to check that out. So break it down for me. I think I have a pretty good idea of why, but what is the stipulation? Why did they ban them? So I believe it was last year and the year prior, investigators uncovered a massive state-sponsored doping program with the Russian team, which I think bleeds into other sports. And this also includes indirectly Maria Sharapova of tennis fame, who was also recently banned for taking a similar drug as these track and field athletes. But state-sponsored doping program, and
they gave them a certain timeline to clean up their act, to make the appropriate punishments. They failed to do so, and I guess they were left with no other choice but to ban these athletes.
That's
Big
yeah, that's huge.
and potential political ramifications as well, because they have a pretty crazy leader in Vladimir Putin, who I don't think is going to take that lightly. It seems like it's just sport, but it means the Olympics is such a big stage for people, for countries, and to showcase their dominance and what they are as a country. And so the fact that they can't participate, I'm sure it's going to manifest in another way.
Yeah, I think the real question I think I would have is if that's a statewide doping program,
Mhm.
how does that not affect the entire Russian Olympic team?
Well,
Right,
exactly.
versus just a
Exactly.
track and field team. It's like, how do they separate the two? Where is that fine line? Because doping in sport isn't just in track and field.
No.
Let's be honest.
No.
And in the Olympics, it's not just in track and field.
Right.
It passes across many of the sports. That's a whole other conversation we get into. But how do they segregate that into that one thing? And you can say it's sad for the athletes, but at the same time, like, they're conscious of it. They're part of it,
Totally.
right? So it's not like you can't not know that you're doping, right? It's like no one's giving you some cocktail that says Gatorade on it and said, here, drink this. And all of a sudden your times are getting better and your strength is getting better and everything, right? So,
Right.
But granted, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure.
Tons of pressure, and
Tons
I
of
would say
pressure.
some people might have been naive. More, I would say the vast majority were well aware of what they were doing, and the stakes are so high that it's easy to see how you make that choice, right? It's you're looking at glory, you're looking at immortality, you're looking at lots and lots of money, right? So in cases like that, I can see how that decision is very easily made. Now, the source that they had was a Russian doctor who defected and revealed that in 2013 at the World Championships of Track and Field, he destroyed over 1,000 urine samples so that their athletes would not have tested positive.
Right.
Yeah, so that was like, for the World Anti-Doping Agency, that was a big piece of information, a big piece of, big source of information for them in this Russian doctor who defected and is now, I think, under witness protection because his life is probably in jeopardy.
You think? Yeah, we could talk about doping in sport forever. We could have this whole session like that. I think it's a great conversation to have. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people are naive to the reality of that, which actually might be a good thing for them. It's just kind of enjoy the sport. Don't get so conflicted with, is this person doping, is that person doping? You just want to see sport at the highest level.
Right.
But if the Olympic Committee was given this information and it was basically public to the entire Olympic Committee, you kind of got to take some action, right? Like, they're not stupid, right? They know that a lot of athletes, a lot of countries are doing similar things, but that information might not be sitting on their desk, staring them in the face. They have to take action at that point. What else are they going to do? If they don't, then that's going to basically destroy the credibility once and for all of the Olympics. Could you imagine if that came out after the Olympics? Like, this information was there, they didn't do anything about it. Like how long can the Olympics sustain as a glorified event if, with this doping controversies, like how long can it endure that?
Yeah, it's already on shaky ground with the head of the IAAF, once again, the Track and Field Federation, is a guy named Sebastian Coe, who was a legend in track and field. But there was a lot of corruption in the most recent years with the track and field governing body, and he was a lead official in that group. And so people are questioning what he knew years ago and what he covered up. So he was under a lot of pressure to make this decision, and I think it was really the only play he could make to show that they have some integrity, they have some credibility. It's not to say that all the other countries are not actively doping, they don't have programs. It's not to say that the Olympics is going to be squeaky clean, because it's not going to be. But that was really the only move he could make.
Then that it kind of segues into another conversation we could have is basically creating action through information.
Mhm.
You know, we talk about performance here on the show all the time. It's like, if you want to take your performance to the next level, you need information. If these athletes want to take their performance next level, they're getting information from their coaches, their doctors, you know, and then the committee, they have information, they need to create action from that. So, I mean, I'm still excited for the Olympics. It doesn't
Super-
really change.
super
It doesn't change my opinion on
Uh,
the Olympics. I think it's definitely sad for the athletes because, like I said, I personally think that a lot of athletes are doing those protocols anyways. It's just a matter of like, you're gonna segregate these people, but information is information. You gotta take action on that.
and this will be a controversial statement, which we'll get into in a future episode. I personally think they should legalize and medically supervise doping in athletics, because a lot of the risks are overblown, a lot of the risks are legitimate, and you're at a point now where the standards have been set. There's no way to have a clean Olympics and produce the standards of performances that people expect. And so the audience, the fans demand a certain level. They don't want to see people running 11-second 100-meter dashes, right? They want to see records broken. And they want these athletes to push the envelope, as they already do in their training, their nutrition, their recovery methods, their supplementation. If this was medically supervised, I think the pros would greatly outweigh the risks. But we'll save that for a later time.
How many people just dropped their coffees or their drinks right now? You said that. What? What did you just say? You said drugs are good? No.
Yeah.
I don't debate that either. I think if something's a reality, you need to bring it to the forefront
Right.
and recognize it versus avoid. The more you avoid it, the more it becomes an issue.
Exactly.
Bring it to the forefront, you know? As our old boss would say, hang a lantern on it. All right?
Shout out to Vince Scalise.
Yeah. Hang a lantern on that.
That's right. That's
So
right.
but then it comes down to what levels. What are the levels? What are the
Right.
limitations? If it's
Right.
0 right now and then you make it, you know, for lack of a better example, you make it 50%. They can use 50% strength
Mhm.
of performance enhancing drugs.
Mhm.
It's like, who's gonna go past that? Like, is it just kind of open ended? Because I mean, as you and I both know, doctor's supervision doesn't mean shit. Pardon my French, but like, these guys are in the business of making human performance athletes. Like, there's really gonna be no end to it. So if you just open up the floodgates, you know, they can't police it now. How are they gonna police it then? I don't know. That's an interesting way to kind of look at that.
You know, and you're right. You couldn't just open up the floodgates. There have to be parameters around it. There would have to be some type of structure. But I think everyone putting their heads in the sand and thinking that everyone that wins a gold medal is clean because they didn't test positive is ridiculous. And I think they just need to have some dialogue around what they can do differently to still have these amazing performances, consider the health of the athletes, and realize that these things are not going away. So how can we safely integrate them into the program of an athlete?
Yeah, speaking of the health of the athlete, you know what my favorite part of the Olympics is?
What's that?
McDonald's being the #1 sponsor and sponsoring the athlete village and ensuring that all the athletes are eating McDonald's during their stay. That's my favorite part of watching the Olympics. How many times have I ranted on that one?
We had little known fact about McDonald's. In 2008, the greatest track and field athlete of all time was in Beijing. Didn't trust, just because he was unfamiliar with
Right.
the cuisine in Beijing, didn't trust some of the food options, and so he elected to have McDonald's the night before he set a world record in the 100-meter dash. Talk about your performance enhancing foods right there. Big Mac, fries, and a Coke. Ran a 9.69 and shut it down with 10 meters to go.
Okay, so hold on. So what you're saying to all the young athletes out there
Eat your McDonald's, folks.
is that if you eat McDonald's before your event, you're gonna become a world champion?
That's right.
Oh my god, we're turning this off right now. I'm ashamed to be on this show right now.
Yeah, just a fact, just an FYI, goes to show that a guy like that performed in spite of the terrible nutrition he consumed the night before, not because of it.
But then like that bleeds into the fact that it's all about his overall preparation, right?
Right.
People ask me questions all the time, right? Like, what do you think of this certain detailed specific thing? I'm like, what does the big picture look like? You know, I posted a food the other day, and one of these guys I know who he's working with football players, he said, for weight cut, you know, is it good to have the skin on the chicken or the skin off the chicken? If someone's trying to drop weight, I'm like, great question, but what does the overall plan of the day look like? What does the plan of the week look like? What does the plan of the month look like?
Getting bogged down in details.
Getting bogged down in details where you need to look at the big picture. How many calories are they consuming overall in that day?
Number one.
What is the breakdown of those calories, protein, carbs, fats? How do they process those calories as a human? And how much calories are they expending? So and that's the other. Could skin be on the chicken? Absolutely.
Sure.
Could skin be off the chicken? Absolutely. It's just like, don't get caught up in those little details if you haven't looked at the big picture first.
Yeah.
Huge. So I mean, for that, you're saying, well, he didn't win because he ate McDonald's the night before.
Correct.
He won because of his preparation was flawless. He did whatever he could at the last minute. And that's why you have to have a sustainable, planned out preparation to ensure that you're doing everything right come game day. It's not what you do just on that day, it's what you've done for the last 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 weeks, up to years. Like it's a lot led up to that.
100%.
I have to squash you on that one, that McDonald's shit.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was putting that out there just for you to do that.
I know, you set it up good.
That was a softball. So now we're talking about food. It's actually a great segue into today's discussion. We're interviewing Coach G in depth. This is a continuation from an episode a couple months back where we dove into our personal stories, our journeys toward the path of becoming coaches. And food is a big part of the equation for both of us, in particular with Coach G. Anyone who knows Coach G knows how specific he is, how conscientious he is when it comes to what he eats, when he eats, the choices that he makes. So I want to take a few steps back and ask, like, where did that come from? How did you become so specific, so particular about the food that you eat?
There's definitely layers to that. You know, I think it's an ever-evolving consciousness. If I can go back, we talked about a little bit of this in the show before, but we won't fill that over too much. But one of the things I don't think I mentioned was when I was a kid, I used to get sent off to the farm in the summertime. So my dad grew up on a farm in Quebec, small town Quebec, beautiful farm in the middle of nowhere. You know, they had cows, they had horses, they had a full working farm.
Right.
So I would spend the summers there working on the farm, taking care of the cows, doing all the good stuff. You know, the food there kind of opened your eyes, right? Like you eat food that is grown there.
Right.
You eat food that is grown by any farm up and down the road. So if you go into the village, which is down at the bottom of the hill, most of the vegetables and the produce and the meat is from local farms that are in walking distance, right?
As local as it gets.
As local as it gets. And you don't really think that at the time, when I was younger, that really didn't play a role, but if you look back now, I start to see how that has influenced a lot of things for me. And how like I was fortunate enough to grow up in that environment and to experience that. Further to that, kind of as before, when I met one of my best friends growing up, Brent, his dad was a world champion kickboxer and martial artist. He was still competing. You know, when I was hanging out with him, we'd spend weekends with him and we would go order food, restaurants, and his dad would just order so specific.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go for breakfast, he'd be like eggs, poached, he'd be like potatoes, steamed, vegetables,
Right.
steamed, like no butter, nothing, right? And I'm just kind of like, what is that all
What's
about?
up
And
with
then
that?
you look at him, he was in phenomenal shape.
Right.
And you're just kind of like, you kind of put two and two together, right? You start kind of asking those questions. At the time, like I was young, but I went through a phase, we talked about that before, where I wasn't in the best shape. Body composition wise, I was a little bit of a chubby kid.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't want to live that way, I want to make changes.
Yeah.
So it's funny, my best friend Brent, he got married last weekend. And
Yes.
about a week and a half ago, his dad calls me, Alex, so he's the one who was an influence on me.
Right.
He said, we're gonna go to a restaurant, after the wedding, but I wanted to call you and tell you it's not all organic, but they grow local like vegetables and stuff in a little like garden up the road.
Yeah.
But I wanted to tell you that it's still gonna be really good. And I was like, Alex, do you know who started me being food crazy?
Right.
And he started laughing because he knew right then. I'm like, it's because of you
Yeah.
that really sent me on that journey.
It really speaks to how highly he thinks of you that he took the time to call and just let you know. He obviously thought of you while making that restaurant choice.
Yeah.
He didn't just say, okay, we're going to the Keg or whatever. We're choosing a place that he knows is going to work well with your values and what you like, right?
For sure.
That's cool.
It was huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like fast forward when we started working together at sports nutrition workshop, the lab.
Yes.
You just see a lot of you get interaction with a lot of different types of athletes, mainly bodybuilders at that time, but you start to see the quote unquote clean eating is kind of the term, right?
Right.
So that's just kind of more like less sauces, less crap. It's kind of your basic protein, your basic carbohydrates.
Yep.
We would go to LA and do photo shoots and stuff, and you go to places like the Firehouse.
Yeah.
You can just get like brown rice. You can get clean sources.
Yeah.
So that was another kind of experience that really changed my thinking. And then it just kept growing and growing. And then when I met my girlfriend now, who's a holistic nutritionist, she also just is on the same page, and she opened my eyes to a couple other things. We went to some different workshops and talks with like David Wolf, who's this crazy hippie, like nutrition ninja.
Yes.
And he would just share all kinds of crazy information that was just like, whoa, blew my mind in terms of, you might just be eating chicken, but do you know where that chicken came from?
Right.
You might just be drinking water, and you know how big I am on water.
Yeah.
He was probably the one that really kickstarted my consciousness of water. Because this is David Wolf.
David Wolf,
Yeah, and then from there you just get those inputs, and how you're just like, maybe you want to research. Someone gives you a little tidbit,
And you go
you're burying your head in a book
Yeah.
for like a week to try to learn every single thing you can about that. And watching documentaries, when people watch these food documentaries and it's like, oh my god, I'll never eat chicken again, or I'll never do this again. It's like, you gotta respect that those systems are put in place to try to convince yourself. You gotta have your eyes wide open on that. You gotta go do your own research, and you gotta look for sustainable sources.
Very true. And those documentaries can be really convincing. I remember, I guess the first one the one that had the biggest impact on us in recent years would have been Food Inc. Because they documented feedlot practices, and you just saw like with your own eyes. You had heard about it in the past, you read about it, people talked about it. Now you're seeing the inhumane ways that cows and pigs were being treated, and it just blew your mind, right? And it's the kind of thing that you could suggest to your parents. Like our parents ended up seeing it, and had somewhat of an impression on them. But yeah, that was a shocker.
What's the crazy thing? I kind of feel like I am now put on this planet to spread the word, like to educate people on these topics that they just don't know about. And like you just mentioned, our parents. Like my dad grew up on a farm with cows and how they were treated. I worked on that farm in the summers. He was still under the impression that the meat he was buying at his local, call it Loblaws or Longo's or grocery store, came from a similar farm that he grew up in. He just didn't have that understanding of all these factory feedlot farms. So when I tried to explain to him and show him, it just kind of glazed over. Right? So people just think of, when you're a kid and you see what a farm looks like, they show a happy red barn and a field and cows and chickens, and that's not necessarily the case for the majority of the food that's out there.
Right.
And it's up to us who are educated and knowledgeable to spread that word and to help people understand. I always say when I work with someone, I said this a million times, but the relationship is my responsibility is awareness. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And on the other end, their responsibility is ridiculous responsibility.
Yeah.
So if I tell you how bad this is, I tell you what this is made from and what it could do to you, and you go and do it, hey man, that's on you. That's cool, I have no problems with that.
You gotta own that.
You gotta own that, but I'm still responsible, I think, for sharing that information. and spreading that word.
Yeah, and coaching the athlete through the process of taking on greater and greater responsibility, because that doesn't happen overnight. You know, that has to be learned. That ownership has to be learned.
Yeah, like nothing is more important than that fuel that you put in your body. I put that as the number one priority when it comes to human performance.
So Alex was an early influence.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of your other mentors, teachers, influencers that you can recall.
Well, I'm actually wearing this shirt today. It says presence on it.
It looks very much like a soccer shirt.
Oh
which is
man,
my
yeah. In honor of the Euro Cup, because
favorite sport.
you know I'm a big soccer fan. I love soccer.
I'm actually a huge soccer fan. My partner in crime despises the sport because of not because of the sport itself. I'm going to speak for you here.
Go ahead.
It's because of the theatrics involved in the sport, the diving, the crying, the whining, which I don't really like either. But
It ruins it for me. And like I have to just preface one thing.
yes.
I think soccer players are incredible athletes.
Oh, without
So
a doubt.
people always think that I think soccer players aren't great athletes. I think they're incredible
For
athletes.
sure.
And I just hate when I talk to soccer players. And I coach and train a lot of high level soccer players. And whenever I say why I don't like soccer, the diving, the theatrics, the drama, the response I get is it's part of the game. And I have to respect that.
It really is. It's a strategy. I mean, a team like Italy uses that to great effect, and that actually won them the World Cup in 2006 because one of the defenders got into Zinedine Zidane's head. Zinedine Zidane, French legend, said something about his mother. Zidane turned around, headbutted him in the chest. The Italian defender dove on the ground in great pain. Zidane got kicked off. Game ended up going into penalty shots, and Italy won.
Yeah. Like, you know what though? I say, as much as I hate the drama, I also respect it a little bit.
Right.
Because there's so much passion in the sport. And, you know, I'm all about passion, right? So, like, I have to respect that part of it. You watch them singing their national anthems and the crowd, and like, there's a crazy energy that you can't ignore, you can't deny. So I do respect those things. It's just like, I just can't sit there and watch the diving. I mean, I come from a background of contact sports,
Right.
so I'm a bit jaded, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little close-minded on that, which is very rare for me, I would say. But yeah, it's not happening.
So I digress into soccer, but your shirt
Yeah.
resembles a soccer shirt.
It is
Yeah,
definitely a
that's the
soccer brand.
Yeah.
But this is a shirt that I wore today just because it reminded me of kind of my past. I knew we were going to talk about some of this stuff today. So Alex, who was one of my instructors, we used to go do karate with them. Long story, I told that already before, and I would just go do the sparring classes
Right.
and not the actual like katas and the whole technique. Again, no disrespect to any of that. So we were at a gym one day, and one of the people who Alex had trained a long time ago, who was now an adult, his name is Maz, we all call him.
Right.
He's a world champion kickboxer. He was also the coach of the Canadian national kickboxing team. Again, we talked a lot about this.
Mhm.
You know, we had an introduction. He said, why don't you guys, myself and Brent, come try out for the national team? So we went, made the team. It was an awesome thing. But he was basically a big mentor of mine. He's a great coach. He's the one who kind of started introducing me to things like affirmations. And at the time, I didn't really gravitate fully towards it.
Mhm.
I didn't absorb it to the point that I do now as a coach.
Right.
He would kind of, at the end of like some of our workouts, he'd give us a little piece of paper, each one of us a different one.
Mhm.
And they all had different affirmations. He's just like random, like, there, that's yours for today.
Right.
Like, take that with you.
Right.
You know, and he was very educated. He's a PhD.
Yeah.
So it's like, this guy's a world champion kickboxer who's also a PhD.
Right.
So you're like, a lot of us guys who fought and are athletes, we're not jocks and meatheads. You know, we're very intelligent people.
Sure.
And people sometimes like forget that. So, you know, he just did a lot from that. You know, he's helped me introduce me to like different nutrition things, which back then, you know, they were on the cutting edge, and now we would kind of laugh at those things.
Right.
But just so many things, and going and competing on the Pro-Am circuit on the cards that he was main eventing.
Yeah.
And being in the atmosphere with him while he was preparing for his fight. He'd be coaching us all night, and then all of a sudden switch gears and turn and prepare for his fight. So just to be able to do that, he definitely taught me a lot about work ethic. He'd be in the gym, if our session was at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, he would have already been there for 3 hours getting his workout in, doing his thing, and then working with us.
What did that impress upon you in terms of what impression did that make on you seeing that?
Well, it's kind of like we talked about. You got to get up. You got to pay yourself first. You got to get your work in. You wait too long. You wait later in the day to get your work in. It's gonna be too late. We talk about that all the time.
Right.
So it's like, get up, get focused, get moving, do what you have to do, even though it might seem difficult, even though you might not want to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do it because you work hard. You're gonna become champion. You're relentless. You're gonna become a champion. Like, it's simple logic. You've got to work hard to become a champion. You're not just going to show up just because you're talented and become a champion. And if you do that, it isn't going to last very long. You want to be a champion once, if you want to live, the rest of your life as a champion. Those are some Muhammad Ali references kind of indirectly there, right? He's like, suffer now, suffer in training to live the rest of your life as a champion. So that was a big thing for me. That was a huge mentor for me.
What is Maz up to these days, and how does he continue to influence your thinking and your philosophy as a coach?
It's kind of weird because I always look at things in timelines. We were having this conversation just the other day about timelines and how it's interesting how people coming in and out of your life at certain times and they make a major impact on your life, but then later they have no impact on your life. Like I don't even really see him. I saw him at the pro show the other weekend, and it was just great to see him. Hugs, high fives, and how's everything going? And he runs a gym out in Oakville. It's Bay Area City Athletics, I believe it's called. So he's still training young fighters. He's still running the national team. He's not competing anymore. I think he retired like 5 times and kept coming back to fight.
Yeah.
It's in the blood, right?
Right.
It's hard to get rid of. So, yeah, I mean, he's not really a current influence on me at all. He's kind of did his time, and now I'm moving on to find other influences and other mentors.
So he played a very significant role in the formative years, in the early days of you as an athlete and as a coach. Who do you look to now for mentorship and coaching? Who influences you heavily now as far as coaching and performance and all of the aspects of coaching that you advise to your clients and athletes?
It's one thing that I kind of went through in the last, maybe 2 years that we think of mentor and coach and advisor as someone you have to meet with all the time and talk with, and that's great. I mean, I mentor and coach a lot of people, and I think that's huge. At this stage in my game, I'm doing a lot of mentoring and coaching under books, under experts who I might not have access to, because to be honest with you, at this point, I want to be mentored and coached by the absolute best in the world. And the reality is I might not be able to have access to those people. So how can I at this point, how do I access them? And we're in an amazing day and age of the information era where we can get information. We can go online, we can buy books, we can read. And that's basically what I do now. I just look for topics more so than individuals that I think that I want to improve on, that I want to grow on, that I think is relevant to my athletes and the people that I coach. And I just dive into that topic. So I almost use topics as mentors now.
Give us an example of a topic that you're going in depth on these days.
These days, the topic that I've been going in depth on is helping people with their health in terms of ways they've been misdirected in the past. So we use like medication, for example.
Right.
Reading some cool books on really how people get diagnosed and they get prescribed medications and how that affects them, like from a performance standpoint, and how we can kind of help use nutrition to steer them off of those medications and bring their performance back up to the highest level. That's kind of something I've been reading fairly recently.
Right.
And then to back that up, I mean, books that I read, similar books I read every day is like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Just building that.
Tell us a bit about Napoleon Hill and how he's influenced you.
You know, that's a book that is timeless. Samantha, my girlfriend, she has like one of the original copies of the book.
As does my father, which shows you how old the book is.
Yeah.
Not that he's old.
Yeah.
I guess he is.
And it's a book that I kind of stole from her.
Yeah.
And like I like hoard it now.
Yeah.
Don't touch it, it's my book. Like it's not my book, it's her book.
Right.
But like I'm reading something out of that book almost every morning.
Yeah.
And it is basically the foundation for every single mindset, coaching, personal development strategy that I have seen in any other book. You know, I've read a bunch of Tony Robbins, you know, Ryan Holiday, so many books we could go on of great books, and they all come from this one book. So like trim the fat,
Yes.
get rid of all the unnecessary information, and just read Think and Grow Rich, and you'll understand. And it has nothing to do with really, when you say rich, like it's not just about money.
No,
Like-
rich is defined differently.
Yeah, rich is kind of how we define superhuman. Superhuman doesn't mean you wear an S on your chest, you know what I mean, and go and kill bad guys. Like superhuman is basically being the best version of yourself,
Right.
and living an exceptional life. So if you read this book, it's just every time you read it, you might have read something, you just learn something new, just about what you're fearful of, how you can overcome that, what's important, what's not important, where your energy is getting drained, where you're leaking energy, as we say, where you can shift your mindset in towards producing something positive. You know, what kind of purpose are you serving? Are you doing things like with honesty? Are you doing things with integrity? Like that's huge. I'm huge on that, and you know that. Like that's actually probably prevented me from a lot of business opportunities because the integrity of it didn't feel right.
Right.
I don't care, like, if people are showing you money and opportunity, it's like, it just doesn't feel right. And some people could get really annoyed at my thoughts on that, I think, because it could be a business limitation. But if it doesn't feel right, like we say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
That's it.
That's a great quote. Whose quote is that, anyways? I can't even think. Just a great
Yeah,
quote.
yeah, definitely. All right, let's shift a little bit into athletes. Big passion of yours, obviously.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why you gravitated into the world of coaching.
Right.
Who are some of your all-time favorite athletes and why?
Wow, that's such. I'm gonna buy time here, right? That's such an interesting question, buying time. I mean, there's just so many diversification that, again, in different phases in my life. When I was a kid, I was playing hockey, played a lot of hockey. So like a Mario Lemieux, I'd be like, he's like who I want to be like, even though he smoked, and he was apparently a jerk to most people. But like from a hockey fan, I'm like, amazing. And that was just based on pure skill and talent. Right. Shift into my martial arts phase of my life. We were talking about this in the gym yesterday. Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, he was a big one for you. I remember that.
Huge. I was a huge fan.
Mhm.
Just his style, his swagger. I can remember like watching his fights and then going into the gym and training with my coach and doing some Roy Jones like moves in the ring. And my coach would stop, shake his head, be like, "No, you're not Roy Jones Jr.
Right.
You can't do
Fight
that
with
at
your
this
hands
point.
down.
You haven't earned that. Yeah, you can't fight with your hands down at your size."
Yeah.
And so let's just stop that right now. But just like the way he dominated his sport. What I always love to see when it comes to athletes is like domination. People sometimes don't want to say they want to see even playing field. We were talking about this again. We have so many awesome conversations in our gym. People just sometimes come and hang out and just shoot the shit with us because
Right.
there's so many good conversations going on. We were talking about LeBron James. I mean, he's a hot topic right now.
Yes.
Love him or hate him, he's
Best player in the NBA.
best player in the
by
NBA.
By most standards.
The most dominant player in the NBA. I mean, that's arguably, you want to talk about Curry, another exceptional player. But I think just presence on the court and presence in the game, you can't match that. He's just
And the body of work. I mean, this is, I think, the 7th trip to the finals. Definitely 6th, maybe 7th trip to the finals in a very short period of time, right? So that speaks to speaks to him, and the supporting cast hasn't always been the best, and he's still carried them as far as he has.
Yeah, definitely. So he'd be definitely someone I would say. You could say he's a whiner and he's a baby and all that, but he just wants to win. He's just so competitive, and he doesn't know anything else but winning.
Mhm.
You know, so other athletes, I'll say Floyd Mayweather Jr., just dominant. People can debate, oh, he hasn't fought one. He has fought everybody.
Yes.
Like, you want to play the names, like, he's fought all the top guys and beat them all. And they're like, oh, he's boring. He's winning. No one says in the record book, so-and-so was an exciting fighter. It's like, how many titles did you win? How much did you dominate your sport?
Let's talk about him for a second in the context of the 6 factors to elite performance. I want you to evaluate Floyd from a mindset standpoint. And you know quite a bit about him just because he's given us access through the 24/7 documentaries and you followed his career. So recap on the 6 factors: mindset, nutrition, strength and conditioning, recovery, skills, and ecosystem.
Right.
So how would you grade Mr. Floyd?
All right. So I don't know him personally.
No, based on the
I
information.
have to preface that based on information that has been presented to me based on the media, because we always know that gets steered in a certain direction. Mindset, 10 out of 10. No doubt.
Yeah.
People say he's cocky, he's arrogant. You damn right he is, and he better be if he wants to be a world champion. If you ain't cocky and arrogant and confident, you shouldn't be a world champion fighter. Because you need that edge, because that's a serious game. And I don't care what sport, you want to talk about Usain Bolt, he doesn't fight anyone, and people that he's cocky and arrogant, he's confident.
Yes.
And it's not about what other people, it's not about what other people think of you at that point, it's about what you're thinking about yourself leading up to a competition, what you're thinking about during that competition. That's all that matters. I had a quick aside, I had to talk, we have some fighters fighting in the North American Muay Thai Championships this weekend.
Right.
Brandon, one of our guys, is fighting there. And I talked to him on Wednesday. He used the words like, if I make the finals, I have to weigh in again on Sunday. I'm like, if?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean if you make the finals? I'm like, when you make the finals? He's like, yeah, I don't want to sound too cocky. I'm like, don't be cocky, be confident. He already has a belt. He's already a champion. Like, you are a champion. Act like a champion. It's like the king doesn't say, if I'm king tomorrow. It's like, you'll be king tomorrow unless someone kills you, but you're the king. So act that way. Be confident. Take that mindset into your game.
And I think a lot of that, we're based in Canada here, and we work with a lot of Canadian athletes, obviously. I think that sensibility, that mindset, that excessive politeness, which can in turn affect mindset, comes from our Canadian upbringing. So a lot of it is like, he doesn't want to offend, he doesn't want to hurt other people's feelings, he doesn't want to be regarded as you said, cocky or arrogant. But he fails to realize that he's talking to himself
That's
as
right.
much as he's talking to you, right? And so when you say things like, things that are not definite, things that are uncertain, things that leave doubt, then you're also saying that to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at our American brothers and sisters, many of them, when you hear conversations with Floyd or Muhammad Ali, let's talk about him for a second, there was none of that. There was no doubt. There was no room for a contingency or for failure based on the way they spoke to themselves. Did they always win? Muhammad Ali lost a few times, but that confidence never wavered, right?
Yeah. So I don't want to go through all of them. Maybe I'll kind of get to them quick because that could take another hour.
So you said mindset,
10 out of 10.
skills for sure.
Skills, 10 out of 10. He's been trained by his father and his uncle, who were also champion level boxers. Incredible skills, just talented. Working on his craft constantly. I think he's in the gym almost every day, all year round, pretty much, right? So skills, 10 out of 10. Strength and conditioning, from what I've seen, that's become something he has adopted more so over the years. And that is the result of he wants to basically increase his sustainability, his longevity in the sport. So he recognized that he's got to do those things, even though he might not want to do those things. It's not just to make him better at boxing, it's to keep him healthy so that he can keep boxing. And that's what some people can't separate those two things, right? Like, there's a lot of boxers that I work with, and actually shout out to Scarlett Delgado, who won her fight last night. She went to Nova Scotia.
Oh, great job.
She was on a big boxing card there last
Good,
night.
good.
She won her fight.
Yeah.
So congrats to her. So a lot of the boxers that I work with, and they have their boxing coaches, you know, they think they can just take on the strength and conditioning, but they seem to use strength and conditioning as simply to increase the stamina of the athlete only, or to make them more fit and stronger, and they overload them. But you gotta use your strength and conditioning to keep them healthy,
Right.
so that they can keep doing the skills in the gym, and that's kind of a big misconception. For that type of sport, we use it to increase the health of the athlete first, sustainability and independence of the athlete, and then the performance of the athlete.
And they're already getting a ton of the conditioning work in their
ton of it, a ton of
skill development.
And if they're not, then there's something wrong with that part of their training.
Yeah.
Okay, so nutrition, Mayweather, I don't know about that one. So we've seen different things, right? You wanna know what TV and the behind the scenes things show you, but you know, you'll see him, he went to a yoga class, and then he had one of his guys go and get him like McDonald's.
Yeah.
So he
I think it
walks
was
out.
in and out burger.
Yeah, in and out, where he walks out of the class, eats that, goes back in. But then you really see some of the scenes where he has a cook at home. They're cooking meals for him. They look really like salmon and rice and vegetables. So there's a fine line between what you see and what really happens. That's one that I can't really honestly answer.
I think Floyd and George St. Pierre are similar in that 85-90% of the time, at least in camp, I can't speak to the off season, they've got the chef and they're eating healthy. They're eating well cooked meals, everything is on point, and they have that 10 to 15% leeway to eat whatever they want. These guys are McDonald's freaks, in and out burger aficionados, and so they'll do that.
Definitely. And like you brought up George St. Pierre, we were talking about athletes before.
Yeah.
He was a name I was going to throw out there, but I mean, he's definitely one of those top athletes that I would say is just incredible.
Yeah.
And I would definitely admire. So okay, so Floyd, we're at rest and recovery.
Yeah, and we've seen him do the cryotherapy.
Cryotherapy. Massage therapy. He was doing the wax on the hands because he had a history of broken hands. So definitely you see some of those strategies going on. I mean, how much we see, we don't know, but you've definitely seen it there as part of his game. And then ecosystem. And this is an interesting one, right?
Very
So
interesting.
we could debate this one in two different directions.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say is from what I've seen, he's kept his ecosystem consistent. Right? So he has his manager, who's been his manager basically since day one. His uncle has been his trainer the majority of the time. His uncle was in jail, right, for a bit. He's been sick and he has diabetes. So his dad trained him early in his career and then started kind of helping him a bit later in his career. There's been all kinds of crazy turmoil, whether it's TV or not, that we've seen between him and his father, all kinds of drama.
Yeah.
But he has kept the same people. The guy who wraps his hands, tapes his hands.
About 85 years old.
85, like it's the same people.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of these boxers and athletes like, now I'm training with this coach and now I'm training with this coach. And it's like moving around to these different celebrity coaches, right? Versus like stability and consistency. And like, just because you lost a fight, it doesn't mean you have to go and change your coaching staff and start from scratch, right? It's like reevaluate what went wrong, what needs to be improved, and go from there because you want to have that type of consistency in your ecosystem. Does he have the best people in the ecosystem? I can't say yes or no because I'm not in that environment, but I will respect the consistency of it. So a number out of that one, I don't know, I think he's probably like, I'll give him a 7 for consistency.
And I think the thing that compensates there is his powerful mindset. He's so comfortable with chaos, and he's so comfortable with being uncomfortable. There's always some type of turmoil happening in the camp, as you said. Arguments with his father, domestic violence charges, revenue, the IRS coming for him as far as taxes.
Right.
and it never phases him, right? He's able to shut all that stuff out and focus on the task at hand. So it speaks to his mindset, and yeah, his ecosystem. There are a few questionable characters, but there are a lot of guys and people that are very positive, especially his family. His mother is a big part of that ecosystem, and his kids, which give him a lot of, you can see, give him a lot of joy and positive energy. Right?
You know, you just brought up such a good point that I want to just pull out of that, what you just said, talking about performing in chaos.
Mhm.
Something I was listening to, reading about the other day, so huge on that. You know, working with, you know, in this case, our athletes and, you know, putting them in some chaos and helping to understand and educate them on chaos is not necessarily always a bad thing. It's not always going to go the way you want. So if you're used to working in chaos, training in chaos, preparing in chaos, when that presents itself, you're fine with it. You know, we always joke around and say things like, you know, a poor tradesman blames his tools, right? So
Right.
if you're on a trip and you're going to fight somewhere, let's say you're going to an NHL hockey camp and your sticks didn't show up, or your boxing, you know, hand wraps or your boxing shoes didn't show up, or, you know, this piece of equipment didn't show up, but you don't have access to this food that you're used to eating. It's like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to perform now because it's not all in perfect harmony.
Right.
It's like, you need to be accepting of that. You need to be like, I don't care if that shows up. As long as you show up, you can work with whatever you got because you did the work, you prepared. You know, work with what you have. Don't always expect it to be perfect. And the more you work that way and train that way, the more successful you'll be.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to ask you a couple more questions.
Okay.
Before I get into that, I'm going to mention rehab. And rehab with you, based on your years of being a high-level athlete and years of being a elite performance coach, is a big skill set for you, and has been quite the journey over the past 20 odd years. And so I think that is its own topic, but I want to tie that in with a special guest that we have coming in a future episode. Brilliant therapist, great friend of ours. We'll do the reveal when it's time, but I think that'll work well for you and her and myself to have a conversation surrounding rehab, recovery, regeneration, and all of that, because that's a lot of material, and we can't cover that in today's episode.
Yeah.
I think that deserves its own. But my second last question.
Well, we're getting running tight on time.
That's right.
This is fun. This time just flies. We can talk for hours.
So we got 5 minutes left,
All right.
and you are 37 years old.
Young. 37 years young.
That's right. What advice would you give to your 21-year-old self?
Two things.
Mhm.
One, shut up. I would say that. And it's funny because I'll never forget a meeting that you and I had. You remember this?
As soon as you said it, I just flashed back to that.
You remember that day?
To that meeting.
We were having a
I remember
meeting,
exactly
like-
what the
I can't remember. It wasn't even something that important.
Yeah.
But we were talking. Something had to get done.
Yeah.
And I think I was complaining. I was like, why does it have to get done? This is ridiculous. It's going in the wrong direction. And you were basically, and you weren't, it wasn't out of malice. It was just kind of like, shut up. Because the facts are the facts. We just got to let's put our energy into doing it.
Was there an F-bomb thrown in there as well? Or no?
No, you were very polite and
It was
professional
a
about it.
collection.
Yeah, because you knew if I stood up, it was shit's gonna go down.
That's true. That's true. So I had to keep it.
No,
had to keep it classy.
You kept it classy. No, like it was so awesome that when you did that, and I just mean like what I mean by that is listen. You know, listen. There's so much knowledge around you constantly. I have been blessed with just being around some incredibly intelligent, incredibly talented, gifted, special people in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm just sometimes be quiet and just listen. And it's not a debate. I mean, I wasn't much of an arguer per se, and I'm still not. I'm like, your point is your point, that's fine. And my point is my point. It's not a debate. But don't always have to make a point. Just listen, absorb what someone's saying, take that away, digest it, understand it, recognize it. If it fits in your psyche, great. If it doesn't, throw it out. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't spend so much time, this is something I always say from a good communicator, something I've learned over the years is when someone's talking, don't think about what you're going to say back. Because you're not listening to them. Listen to everything they have to say, and then when they're done talking, then you can start to formulate a response. Because now you're not learning anything, you're not absorbing anything. So I think that is the number one thing I would tell my 21-year-old self, is to just shut up and listen, and you'll learn so much.
Right.
Yeah, that's number one.
Number one. You said there were two things actually.
Yeah, there's another one. The other one is is basically like stay open. Stay open. Be conscious and aware of all the amazing opportunities that come to you in so many different ways
Right.
that you might not recognize. And these are things that I do now, so obviously this is based on experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some things are wrapped up in a weird blanket that might not see what it's supposed to be. It might seem like a terrible thing, but on the other side of that is something amazing.
Right.
So don't always dismiss things because you think that right now it might suck, so I don't want to go down that road. Because at the end of that road, though, it might be the most amazing thing. So stay open. Don't just kind of narrow things down and don't just be like, that's not for me. Like, it might be for you. Just feel it out, go down that road, and then if you make a decision after that it's not for you, that's fine. But experience it first and get involved in that before you make a decision.
Right. Excellent responses, excellent insights. Last question before we sign off for today is borrowing from our good friend Tim Ferriss. If you had a billboard
Right,
in Dundas Square or Times Square
right.
or wherever, what would be on that billboard and why?
It wouldn't necessarily be like a picture of me. Honestly, it's gonna sound really cheesy, but this is something I'm huge on, and it would say something like, you are worthy of living an exceptional life. Underline and in bold or italics, worthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a message that is something that I'm preaching more and more to people, and even to myself. That's actually my personal affirmation. It's one of my personal affirmations. I think a lot of us feel like the decisions we make are based on we're not worthy. It's like, okay, go buy this grass-fed beef. Oh, well, that's so expensive. Like, you're not worthy of eating that? Like, you don't think you're worth spending more money on something quality?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, go train at 5 a.m. in the morning because, like, your body's amazing and it deserves it. Oh, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your body's not worthy of you doing that. Take some time off and go spend it with your friends and family. Like, do those things. Like, go book a massage.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the infrared sauna. Like, go sit down, quiet, read a book. Go buy something that you really want. Like, yeah, it can be material things. Like, it can be spending time. Whatever gravitates, you gravitate towards and makes sense to you. It's like, do it because you are worthy of it, and you can live an amazing life and have everything you want and do everything you want to do, and you are worthy of that. I don't think people recognize that enough.
Powerful words by the often imitated, never duplicated Coach G. And I think those powerful words are fitting and are the best way to sign off on another episode of Strong Athlete Live. Thank you, Coach G.
Thank you.
iLive Radio. Thank you, Boss Jason. And we'll be back. We'll be back in July, early July, I believe, with another great episode, and we have a guest lined up. So stay tuned.
Beautiful.
Have a great weekend. Have a strong and positive weekend, folks.
Drink lots of water. It's hot out there. And while you're drinking your beer, just have a water in between every beer.
It's Saturday night, so you can throw in some coconut bliss ice cream as well. It's all
Oh
good.
man, my cat even loves that. That's how good it is.
It's real good.
He won't leave you alone.
Peace.
All right.
Said land, when I love you so, and I mean it so, from the bottom of my heart, I tell you
The whole team.
to
I didn't think that was gonna happen.
let me
Something like that.
Yes, something like that.
Yes.
So that's something
I have to go back and
different.
check.
Comes to
There have been podcasts.